What's up, everybody? Greetings and salutations. Spencer Kyte, your friendly neighborhood Spencer man, here with one question for every fight for the first pay-per-view of 2023. UFC 283 takes place on Saturday at Genesee Arena in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. 2 title fights, good card overall, quality card overall. I said in my OSDB piece that will come out later this week, previewing this, that last week felt sort of like the soft open of the UFC schedule, right? The friends and family come, there's some deals, you see how everything's laid out, take a look at the store, take a look at the restaurant, whatever it may be. You make sure everything's working, everything's in place. You figure out what bugs you still need to fix. And then you have the grand opening a week later where we're open to the public. So last weekend, UFC Fight Night Vegas 67, Sean Strickland, Nasruddin Imavov. Solid card overall, quality card overall, but none of the big bells and whistles, none of the big production, no titles, no anything like that. It's at the Apex. Things should run smoothly. We get it all sorted out, make sure everybody's kind of shook off the rust from a few weeks away for the holidays. And now we come back and we do pay-per-view in Brazil, and it's the big show. It's the big open. 2 title fights. Lots of interesting fights, lots of interesting matchups, lots of interesting questions to be asked. So let's get to them. Glover Teixeira versus Jamal Hill for the vacant light heavyweight title. My question is the one that Jamal Hill is asking himself and wants to answer for himself this weekend. Is he ready to be a world champion? I love the fact that this has been the question Jamal Hill has been asking himself kind of throughout this journey. That when the time comes, will I be ready? When I get to that point, am I good enough to do it? It's the thing that I love about these fights. It's the thing I love about this sport in general. It doesn't have to be just from a championship fight perspective. Am I good enough is the thing I want to find out every single time these men and women step into the octagon. Am I capable of beating this person or that person? And so the fact that Jamal Hill is very centered in this and has been for a long time, has understood for a long time that each of these is a step along the way. And when the time comes, am I good enough to be at that elite level and hang with the elite fighters? And Glover Teixeira, make no mistake about it, is still an elite fighter at 43 years old. We're going to find out on Saturday. That's right. Everybody understands. We're going to find out. I spoke with Jamal Hill prior to this fight and said, look, what happens if on January 21st? The answer is no. No, I'm not. And he said, then we go back, we retool, we get there so that the next time I'm in this spot, we find out. We ask it again and we find out again. It's the absolute right mindset. It's the 100% way to do this. The reason it's so intriguing to me is because right now, Jamal Hill really is that unknown. Like, there's no way for anybody to definitively say, yes, he is. Outside of from a, like, I think, from an outside of an opinion standpoint, right? Empirical evidence thus far, we don't have it. You look at his record and he's done well in the UFC thus far. 5-1, 1 no contest, all finishes in the victories. 3-fight winning streak, coming off a win over Thiago Santos, former title challenger. First round finishes in the 2 fights before that. Clearly has power, has beaten everybody that has been put in front of him over this stretch since the Paul Craig fight. Clearly learned and grew from that. Great. But we haven't seen him in there with somebody of this caliber yet. It's why I liked the Anthony Smith fight. And I don't even think that Anthony Smith is necessarily that truly elite level. I would put it to Yuri Prohashka, Glover Teixeira, Jan Blachowicz, and Magomed Ankalaev as my 4, with then Hill, Smith, Santos, and some others behind there, beyond that. And so it's hard to say. To me, there's no definitive way to say. And we're going to find out on Saturday. The only way to ever know for sure and say for sure is to see them in there. We will cover on the preview show our predictions, our picks, how we think this fight is going to go down. I have my ideas. I will share them on the preview show. But I am fascinated by this fight and by this question, because this is the thing that I'm always looking for. One of the things I'm always looking for. Here's this emerging talent that has looked very good to this point. Is he just very good? And I know that sounds a little like backhanded complimenty, but hear me out. Is he just very good, or is there another level to this? Because you've got to be at another level to beat Glover Teixeira. We're going to find out on Saturday, and I cannot wait. Can't wait. Love this fight. Love the intrigue about it. It is fascinating to me. Co-main event, Deiveson Figueiredo, Brandon Moreno, part 4, to unify the flyweight titles. My question is, what version of Figueiredo turns up on Saturday? And there may be some people that question why that's where my head is at with this, or why that's the line of thinking I have going into this, given that he looked very good last time out. Don't deny that. It was a year ago. The fight before that, he didn't seem all that interested. And Brandon Moreno rolled through him. And so, again, going off, and I'm trying really hard this year to base as much of my thinking and as much of my questions and thought processes on these fights, on the evidence that previous fights have shown us. And so, in the interim between that third fight and this fight on Saturday, Brandon Moreno went out and looked absolutely phenomenal against Kyte Kara-France. Made great in-fight adjustments, got him out of there in the third round with a beautiful body kick. Looked terrific. I know what Brandon Moreno is showing up on Saturday. I know 100%. You know, I have as good of an idea as possible of what version of Brandon Moreno is turning up on Saturday. Figueiredo's a question mark. We've seen him show up for this fight, for part 2 of this now 4-pack of fights. He turned up and was like, just not feeling it tonight, and got rolled. So we know it's possible. And he hasn't fought in a year. And weight cutting has always been a challenge. It's always going to be an issue. To his credit, he hasn't had any misses in these title fights. So that's not me saying I think he's going to miss or anything like that. But it takes a toll. Every time he has to get down to 25, it takes a toll. And every year that goes by, he's another year older. And it's 12 more months that make it harder to get there. I also think that it's going to be interesting to see what fighting at home in Brazil does. Does it amp him up too much? Does it become too much pressure? Again, I know how Brandon Moreno is going to respond. I think I have a very good idea of what I'm going to get from Brandon Moreno on Saturday. And it is a elite fighter that is good everywhere, that understands the moment, and that will do his absolute best to win this fight on Saturday. I can't say the same about Deiveson Figueiredo. I just can't, because I saw him turn up for the second fight and just be kind of disinterested and get rolled. I can't shake that. Now, third fight, came in, focused, pumped up, ready to go, looked great, won the fight, in my opinion, handily. Like, it was a competitive fight, but there was no point where I was like, I think Brandon Moreno won that fight. I thought Figueiredo won it. I thought it was clear that he won it, but it was a good fight. It was a competitive fight. And so that guy can absolutely turn up. The guy that did the same thing in the first fight, won it rather handily, if not for the point deduction, could turn up. And this could be a moot point. This could all be for naught. But it could also be a thing that dictates or that impacts how this fight plays out on Saturday. And so it's the thing that's at the forefront of my thoughts right now. What's he look like? Let me see the rest of this week. I'm going to start watching Embedded. I've been looking at some photos. that stuff. Let me hear from people that are on the ground. What version of Figueiredo are we getting? Because if we're getting locked in Figgy, this is awesome. All the other fights have been entertaining. Even the second one where Moreno steamrolled him. But if we get the locked in version, if we get the on weight, on point, this is terrific. This is fight of the year contender to start the year. Middle fight on the main card is in the welterweight division, Gilbert Burns versus Neil Magny. My question is, does Burns look to make a statement here? So for me, Gilbert Burns is in a bit of a weird place. He's coming off the loss to Khamzat Chimaev. 2 fights before that is the loss to Kamaru Usman in the title fight where he had him rocked and then lost a couple rounds later. He got a win in between there over Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. And now he goes from fighting Khamzat Chimaev, who is the sort of top 2, top 3 contender, to taking a couple steps back and facing Neil Magny, who is someone that hasn't been able to clear this hurdle in the past, is in his mid-30s, is coming off a good win, but not a great win. And so I just wonder, like, Gilbert Burns has been trying to get some bigger fights. He's been trying to coax Jorge Masvidal into the octagon. He's someone to me that kind of feels like he's entering that Dustin Poirier range where they maybe exist best outside of the title conversation for right now, hunting down and chasing down those fights like Jorge Masvidal, which wasn't able to come together. And so we're here, obviously. And I just wonder if at 36, fighting back home in Brazil, Burns comes out here and looks to make a little bit of a, like, get me in here with somebody nasty that isn't Neil Magny next time. Get me in here with somebody, whether that's Colby, whether that's Masvidal, whoever, whether that's welcoming somebody else up to the division, one of the bigger names from lightweight, if they want to come up, whether that's Conor McGregor. I wouldn't take it if I was Conor, but you know what I mean? Whether that's waiting for him to be the guy that faces the winner of the Shavkat Rakhmonov Jeff Neal fight. I just wonder if he goes out and looks to make a I'm still here motherfucker statement. Like, I'm still this dude. I'm still this problem for just about anybody. Don't misconstrue losing to Kamaru Usman and losing to Khamzat Chimaev to mean that I'm not about this. He gave Chimaev the toughest fight of his career to date, hurt him at different points. And I think you could probably argue if that was a 5-round fight and they just resumed from where they were, I'd probably lean Burns the rest of the way. Curious to see if he comes out and just looks to put a stamp on something here. It's an opportunity to do it. Stylistically, this works out well for him. He is the better grappler by far. He is in most situations, but he is the better grappler by far, has the bigger power. Magny can get touched. We've seen Magny beaten very recently by a guy that's better than him in Rakhmonov. So let's just see. Let's see if Jorginho comes out and just kind of looks to put one on Neil Magny on Saturday. Flyweight division, Jessica Andrade and Lauren Murphy. My question is, where do each of these ladies stand at the moment? In the rankings, in the hierarchy, fine, we know where they are. They are both top 5. But overall, this is Andrade coming back to the division after going down to 115 last year to get a first-round submission win over Amanda Lemos, which sort of keeps her in that, given that Lemos then went out and rebounded by beating Marina Rodriguez, it puts Andrade in that peripheral conversation always of potential title challengers, especially now that there's been a change again at the top of the division. But here, where does she fit? Because she hasn't fought in the division since losing to Valentina Shevchenko. That was one-sided. This is her 3rd fight at 25. She's 1-1. Finished Caitlin Chukagian, lost to the champ. Very much deserves to be considered as a top 5 fighter in this division. But just, it's hard to go back and forth. It's hard to do both weight classes. She's been, not as active as in previous years. And I don't know if that is because she's trying to do both or she's picking and choosing where the matchups are. And I get that. This is probably the best matchup that was available to her. And fighting at home, I'm sure, plays into it. But that's the Jessica Andrade side. The Lauren Murphy side is really interesting to me as well, because as much as all of us, I'm sure, wanted to be like, well, she had her chance. Now she can go back to being the tough out in sort of the 4 through 7 range in the division after the absolute drubbing at the hands of Valentina Shevchenko. She beat the piss out of Miesha Tate. Like, dominated Miesha Tate from start to finish. And her hands looked better than ever. Shouts to my guy Sean Madden for working with her. They've now been in 2 camps. So let's see how much better they've gotten. Because like Lauren Murphy with those kinds of improvements, if they are legitimate, meaningful, taken root improvements, is interesting. Because the toughness is always there. The resiliency is always there. But if somebody is finally, and if Sean has finally been like, hey, here's how we use what you do to the best of your abilities and make it into something that doesn't look as funky and awkward and ugly as it did earlier, and we get the performances like we did against Miesha Tate or some close facsimile, Lauren Murphy can go out and win this fight. And then if she wins this fight, she's right back in the mix. Now, I don't think she's going to get hustled into another championship opportunity because we just saw her against Valentina Shevchenko. We know how that went. I think even Lauren Murphy would acknowledge that she probably has to win more than 2 to get back in there, especially with this group of younger fighters that are scaling the ranks. But this one's meaningful. This one has a lot of weight to it, even though they've both lost to Shevchenko. This is all about holding ground and maintaining space, because that young pack is coming, right? Erin Blanchfield next month has the fight with Tyler Santos. She's coming. Macy Barber's coming. Miranda Maverick's coming. Natalia Silva is a couple steps behind them. She's coming. Casey O'Neill is coming. Like, this is a big fight. This is meaningful. We're going to find out whether Andrade is hanging around and sticking at 25, whether she's going to go back to 115. We're going to find out if the improvements and adjustments that Lauren Murphy has made or showed in the last fight are real and lasting and meaningful. It'd be a great fight. Going to tell us a lot and help shape what happens outside of the title picture at 125 for the rest of the year. We move to the light heavyweight division. We close with the light heavyweights. We start the pay-per-view main card with the light heavyweights, Paul Craig versus Johnny Walker. And the question is a fairly obvious one. Will Johnny Walker get sucked into Paul Craig's world? My gut feeling is yes, because I think this is one of those spots where Johnny Walker feels I can be better than this guy in that spot. So there's no harm in me going down here. And if that's how it plays out, I look forward to seeing it. Now, the smart play, the wise play, the strategic play is to do the Volkan Ozdemir thing. I'm not going to the ground with you, man. I'm not even entertaining it. It's to do the like Dan Hooker against Claudio Puelles thing. The minute you go to the ground and start touching my leg and start trying to rope me in, I'm getting the hell out of here and telling you to stand up. Because Johnny Walker is by far the better striker. He will have a significant reach and length advantage overall. Tons of power. Should be able, if he wants and is smart, to hang out on the outside and either pick Paul Craig apart or put him to sleep. But that's the case with everybody. And we've seen a lot of dudes get sucked in to just, hey, he's down here. And man, I think I can get some ground and pound off. And he's going to let me hit him because he's going to be looking for stuff. And I think I can just, if I go down and I get one and I think I can get him out of here, And then Paul Craig starts doing Paul Craig things and trapping arms and hunting for arm bars and hunting for triangles. It's why I like Paul Craig fights. Preview to tomorrow. 10 things. One of them will be that Paul Craig is fighting because it's always intriguing. I like the chess match. Even the fight with Ozdemir, right? Where it didn't turn into any of the typical Paul Craig stuff. And it was kind of a flat fight. It's still compelling the whole way through because we've seen Paul Craig finish Ankalaev at 4 minutes and 59 seconds of the third round. We've seen him finish Kennedy and Nzechukwu in the 4th minute or in the 5th minute of the third round in Kennedy's debut. So we'll see if Johnny Walker has made some meaningful growth, development, processing decisions over these last couple fights, and whether he gets sucked in, whether he gets pulled down to the ground to mess around with Paul Craig and ends up getting stuck like a whole bunch of other people have. We stick around in the light heavyweight division for the final prelim of the night, the final fight of Mauricio Shogun Rua's illustrious career against Ihor Potieria. My question is, will this leave us happy or sad? I genuinely don't know with this one. I'm unsure because I've been writing Shogun off for about 6 years. I don't feel bad saying that. He hasn't looked like himself for a long, long time. And he's taken a ton of damage and the knees are shot. And as much as I respect him still going out there in the very short Vale Tudo shorts with a little bit of a boiler hanging out over the top, guys like that are hanging on, and it feels like he is somebody that is just hanging on, can get slept. And it can, right? We saw Frankie Edgar, Madison Square Garden. I just want to have one more close to home. All my people can come. I could get the big send-off, and Chris Gutierrez kicked him in the face. So here's Shogun coming home, back to Rio. Big moment. Everybody's going to be here. It's my last one. It's my swan song. It's a favorable matchup against this guy that's coming off the Contender Series 2 seasons back, that lost his debut to Nick Negumereanu. Feels like it should be a win, right? They're not giving him a super difficult matchup. This is a guy Shogun could and should beat. I don't know. Do you feel confident being like, no, Shogun? Absolutely. Preview to Friday's show. This is a no bets fight for me. This is a no action fight. Because one, I don't want to make any money on Shogun getting sent to the shadow realm betting on Ihor Potieria. Two, I don't want to lose any money betting on Shogun to win and then getting dispatched into the shadow realm. So it will be a stay away for me. But like this is coin flip. We're either having a nice little moment where a guy that was at one point probably the best pound for pound fighter on the planet, if not in the very small select group in the conversation after he won the Pride Middleweight Grand Prix. Former champion, surefire Hall of Famer, absolute legend. One of those guys that is just, for people of a certain age, era, generation, he is one of those dudes. Could also be really sad. Could also be like the Frankie Edgar fight. I don't want it to be. I want it to be happy. I want to have a good moment. I want to see Shogun get his hand raised, get celebrated, end it with a big smile on his face, saying goodbye, being showered with applause for a victory. I hope it happens. Move to the middleweight division. Gregory Rodriguez against Bruno Ferreira. Can RoboCop make a little run at middleweight? So, 31 in February, 13-4 overall, 4-1 in the UFC, won his last two. So 2 wins on either side of a split decision loss to Armen Petrosyan. He's got big power, clearly has some durability. We saw him weather the storm and a hellacious cut against Chidi and Njokuani last time out. There's room to move at middleweight. There always is. It's just a matter of, is he a guy that's going to be able to do it? It's a question I've been asking about various people for a number of years. And so far, not a lot of people have been able to make that move, have been able to make that run, which is why middleweight looks the same as it always looks with the same group of people, right? We saw Nasruddin Imavov last weekend, wasn't able to make that next step up. Now, granted, short notice, change of opponents, all of those things, fine. But no one else has really gotten there, right? Edmund Shabazian started having his little bit, didn't get there. Chris Curtis started having his little bit, didn't get there. Lost to Jack Hermanson. Brendan Allen started having his nice little run, lost to Sean Strickland. Okay, quick bounce back, then lost to Chris Curtis. Having a little bounce back now, has a big fight coming up. We'll see if he gets past Andre Muniz, who even Andre Muniz hasn't made that real run yet. Hasn't made that real push into the top 5. This time last year, we're talking, is he a contender? Does he get a title fight before the year is out? Now he's got to get through Brendan Allen in order to just keep advancing. And so for RoboCop, it's a matter of go out this weekend. If he's going to, you go out this weekend, you beat the short notice replacement, the guy that's coming off Contender Series, you make a statement, you move to 5-1, you get on the mic and say, I should be undefeated. Only loss is a split decision. Judges screwed me, whatever. And you have a name in mind. You call out Sean Strickland, Chris Curtis, somebody in the top 15. You give a date with it. Summer, International Fight Week, Vegas, Chris Curtis, Sean Strickland. Look me up. That's how you do it. That's the blueprint. That's the road. I think he gets through Saturday. It's just a matter of the next one. There's room. I mean, I know I talk about middleweight all the time, but it just feels like there's got to be somebody at some point, right? Eventually, one of these dudes has to just connect and have the kind of run where they make an actual run and they have some actual success. We'll see if it's RoboCop. Next up, Thiago Moises and Melky Costa. My question is, where does Moises fit in the lightweight division? I asked similar about Jessica Andrade and Lauren Murphy. With Moises, he's 16-6 overall, 5-4 in the UFC, but the losses are to good guys. We detailed this in the Fighters to Watch series. Go back and check that out if you haven't already. Went through every division. They're all in there. Feels like a dark horse to me. Feels like a guy that still has room to grow because he is 27, 28, works at a good camp at ATT. You can build off those losses. I don't fault you for those losses to those good guys. But there's been lots of people that have felt like dark horses and not gotten there. And there's been lots of people that you go, but he lost to, he was young, he was coming up and he lost to better guys. Sometimes that's just where you peak. Sometimes that's just where the ceiling is. And so similar to Rodriguez in the fact that I don't think this weekend answers that question because Melk Costa, excuse me, I was going to call him Castillo. Melk Costa is a newcomer, short notice. It's not the fight that is going to carry you forward the way that beating Guram Kutateladze, who is scheduled to fight, potentially would have. But we got to find out this year. Like Thiago Moises has headlined a UFC fight against the current champion and went into the 4th round with him, which is part of the reason for my optimism. The other losses are Damir Ismagulov, Benil Dariush in his debut, and Yoel Alvarez after that Makhachev fight, which is the one that gives me a little bit of pause because he didn't look good. He just got overwhelmed. It was one-way traffic against Alvarez, who hasn't risen through the ranks yet. But I look at him and I just think the pieces are here to be another one of these guys that at 27, 28 starts to put it all together, starts to make a little run. He's coming off a couple good victories, or a good victory, I should say, over Christos Yagos. Starts to put something together here, gets a second win, beats Costa, and then starts moving. I think the skill is there. The talent is there. It's just a matter of if it happens. Some guys it doesn't happen for. Like I said, some guys, you think for the longest time that, hey, they've only lost to good competition, and they just constantly lose to that good competition. They constantly reside in that 12 to 25 range. It's good living. It's a good spot to be. It's not the end of the world. Lots of people would love to trade places with you, but we'll see. Next up, we move to welterweight Munir Lazzez against Gabriel Bonfim. My question is, how will little brother's fight impact big brother here? So earlier in the night, we will get to it in a couple of fights. Ismail Bonfim fights Terrence McKinney. 2 fights later, big brother Gabriel goes into the cage against Munir Lazzez. We've seen this happen a couple of times in the UFC. The most recent one I can remember, or the most kind of salient one I can remember, is Anthony and Sergio Pettis fighting on the same card. Know both guys a little bit, talked to both guys about it. Never wanted to do it again. Too stressful. Too hard. I think Serge went out, lost his fight, and then Ant went out and lost his fight. I believe it was the Dallas show. I think it was where he lost his title. And just like, not that it was the only reason, not that it was the core reason, but it's just too stressful. And so is there something about, depending on how Ismail's fight earlier in the night goes, that just is too much for Gabriel Bonfim, who has his own things to worry about, making his own debut against a lengthy, dangerous striker in Munir Lazzez, who's 2-1 in the UFC and a good fighter. Really curious to see how this plays. I understand the reason why. I understand teammates being on the same card. We see it with the City guys. We saw it towards the end of the year last year with Cameron Saman and Dricus du Plessis on the same card. We see it lots, right? Teammates, training partners, surround yourself with people that are going to be there. You get more coaches. All of those things make sense. But in this situation, what's the impact? Right? We've seen it. We've seen my teammate, my training partner, my brother goes out and has a bad performance and I can't shake it. And I'm trying too hard to get it back, or whatever the case may be. Let's just see. It's a thing to keep an eye on. Really interested to see how Ismail does before Gabriel goes out. It'll dictate my thoughts on the fight. Truthfully, it'll have an impact Saturday night of whether I think Bonfim can beat Munir Lazzez. It's a competitive fight, but if little brother gets trucked, does it change things? Does it rattle him? Or does it embolden him? We'll see. It's going to be fun. Move to the heavyweight division. Shamil Abdurakhimov against Jailton Almeida. The 3rd time they have tried to make this happen. So I'm going to knock on some wood in front of me here that it actually stays together. This is the closest we've gotten to it happening. So it feels like it's going to happen. My question is, what is the ceiling for Almeida at heavyweight? And I ask this because for me, I look at him and I think he should be at 205. I think it's the right division for him. He doesn't cut he doesn't cut any weight to be at heavyweight, obviously, but he's not a prototypically big heavyweight. He's not coming in at 245. I think for his last fight, which yes, was a catch weight limited to 220, he came in at the 220, but even against Parker Porter, he didn't look like a great big oversized heavyweight or anything like that. And so I just wonder, as he gets into some of these bigger fights, and I think Saturday will be a little bit of a indication, because Abdurakhimov is a bear of a man, right? Big, tall, thick, strong, hefty, burly dude. Similar in ways to Parker Porter. And I think it will tell us a little bit what we can expect of Almeida if he stays at heavyweight, because he wins this one and he's in with the big boys. He's in with the guys that are established. He's in with the real heavyweights. And now, can he get to 235, 245 and be quicker, stronger, speedier, whatever? I think so, but we'll see. We don't know for sure. And so I think this fight again is going to be fairly instructive. I think it's going to give us an idea of, okay, was he walloping dudes that he should wallop? And that's what he's done thus far, right? Ran through Danilo Marquez in his debut, dominated Porter in his sophomore fight, beat the pleasure man, Anton Turkai, in his third fight, short notice, second time this fight got canceled. If he goes out and does that to Abdurakhimov, fine, stick around at heavyweight, get to whatever number is comfortable for you, and we'll find out on Friday, right? I expect him, my guess would be he comes in at about 240, and he looks good, getting off the bus, looks solid, and then we'll see what happens on Saturday. If he rolls, I'm excited. Get him in there with March and Tybura. Get him in there with Jairzinho. Let me see some of this stuff. Then we just go on the like, let's see how far we can take it. Then we really start testing the ceiling, right? Then every fight becomes is it higher than this? Is this actually where the floor is? Is this level? Let's see what happens on Saturday. Going to be fun. As I mentioned a little earlier, lightweight fight, Terrence McKinney, Ismail Bonfim. My question is, has McKinney made the necessary adjustments to his game from that Drew Dober fight? Now, I know people can say, well, he went out after that and beat Eric Gonzalez very quickly to move to 3-1 in the UFC. And to that, I will say, I don't care. Not to disrespect Mr. Gonzalez. That is a fight that Terrence McKinney should win all the time. Because Terrence McKinney is a really great talent. Really great prospect. All the things you look for. We saw it. That's why the Drew Dober fight stands out so much and is such a sticking point for me. We saw it all in that first minute where he's got Drew Dober on skates. Big power. Sudden. Real sudden power. But there were things that he needed to fix. And it's the stuff that led to the loss, right? Went to the well too many times on the same moves, gets a little loose, gets a little wild, leaves himself open, catches some big shots. I also don't think that the gas tank is necessarily where it needs to be. And we haven't had to see it yet. It hasn't been tested as of yet because he hasn't been out of the first round. It's just been outside of the Dober loss, which was 3 minutes and change. It's been one-way traffic. And most guys are able to maintain when they're in charge. You don't tax yourself as much. It's not as taxing on your system when you're the hammer as when you're the nail. So Terrence McKinney has been going forward and dominating these people, and we haven't had to see any of the adjustments. We haven't been forced to see if he's made those reads and made those improvements. I don't know if we see it on Saturday because this is a big step up for Ismail Bonfim, who is coming off Contender Series, is a good fighter, an undefeated fighter, shows some promise, but like we're taking a big step here. So let's limit expectations and judge accordingly. But for me, this is all about McKinney. This is, if you're going to be as good as he is, as he presents as maybe being, make those adjustments and smash this dude. Because you had Drew Dober on skates. You had Drew Dober on the ropes. And that means something. That's not just, oh, he landed a lucky punch. Bobby Green hit Drew Dober with a whole bunch of punches and didn't have him nearly as hurt as Terrence McKinney did. If he makes those changes, if he grows from that fight and really those things take root and he dials some of that explosive suddenness in, he could be a real problem real quickly in this division. Next up, the welterweights, Warley Alves and Nicholas Dalby. My question is, what's the legacy of Nicholas Dalby? And this is the kind of thing I think about pretty regularly, truth be told, with some of these athletes, with guys similar to Nicholas Dalby. So he's 38 years old. He's 24-1 with 2 no contests overall. 4-3 with 1 no contest in the UFC, 16-1 with one no contest outside of the UFC. He's had a couple of good wins inside the octagon. Alex Oliveira, Daniel Rodriguez. He's had some fun fights, right? The early fight with Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos, Darren Till. Had a couple good fights. But really feels to me like one of those guys that for his generation illustrates the difference between being tremendous on the regional circuit and what that means at the highest levels. Outside of the UFC, as I said, 16-1, one no contest, multiple time Cage Warriors champion, bounced from the UFC. When he did return, lost his next fight to Carlo Pedersoli Jr., and then went on a run to get himself back into the UFC, culminating with that bonkers fight that got stopped because the cage floor was too slippery from all the blood he and Ross Houston, I believe, or Scott Houston, I believe, spilled in the octagon in that fight. But he just hasn't been able to really take that step and put it all together in the UFC. This second run, I think it's because he's a little older. The first run, it's because he was dealing with some other stuff. But this is a guy to me that sort of is emblematic of the difficulty and the challenges of being at this level and competing in the thick of a tough division in the UFC, right? We talk all the time and people want to talk all the time about what it means to be UFC caliber has changed so much and it's so far down, whatever. And sure, that's true. We have many more fighters that don't have the level of experience that athletes had to have back in the day in order to get here. But that changes as generations and eras and time passes. And so expecting it to be the same is ridiculous. But we also have guys like this where it just shows you that it's hard, right? I don't think we talk about it enough. I don't think we address it enough in talking about these men and women that compete inside the octagon. It's hard to win in the UFC. Nicholas Dalby has won 16 of 18 fights outside of the octagon. He is a 500 fighter in the UFC. And it's not like he's in there facing world champions, even top 15 guys. It's hard. We need to talk about the difficulty of winning fights in the UFC. It's why I harp on all the time about if it were so easy, more people would win 4, 5, 8, 9, 12 fights in a row that we just take for granted, that we just accept and move on from and go, yeah, but who did they really fight? I don't care. The Nicholas Dalbys of the world are proof that even if you are fighting not the upper echelon, it's hard to win fucking fights. And so to me, a guy like Nicholas Dalby, my question of what is his legacy is exactly that. He's one of those guys that should serve as a constant reminder to anyone that thinks this is a joke, this is easy, that guy's a bum, this girl is that, to shut up and remember how difficult it is to win fights and be consistently successful inside the octagon, yet alone rise to the level of being a world champion or a title contender and then stay there long term, to be a Neil Magny, to be a Jeremy Stevens when he was in the UFC. Give these people the respect, recognize how difficult it is to compete at this level. We move to the featherweight division, Josiane Nunes and Zara Fern. And my question is, are we actually going to get a real featherweight division? So here's the scoop. This question isn't actually born of this fight, but it is born of the news that Carol Hossa is moving up from 135 to featherweight to fight Norma Dumont, I believe in April. And so even though it's only 2 fights, it's still 2 fights at 45. We have a woman in Amanda Nunes who's walking around with a featherweight title on her shoulder or hanging in her living room as it is. And so Are we maybe just going to start doing this a little bit? Because there's some other women, there's some other athletes that are in this division that in theory are going to keep fighting. That maybe I don't think all of a sudden, look, this isn't me saying all of a sudden we're going to flesh this out and have 15 or 20 featherweights to pick from. Not happen. I don't know that there's 15 or 20 real quality fighters in this division. But it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see if this is just these two fights. And so the winner of Carol Hosa and Norma Dumont ends up fighting Amanda Nunes, and that becomes the last time Nunes defends the title or whatever, or whether this is something that we're going to start seeing a little bit more of. Josiane Nunes is 2-0 in the UFC. She's undersized, but gets the job done. She should do that again on Saturday. That starts to become interesting to me. I know it's just me, probably. I know there's probably not a lot of other people that are like, hey, maybe, and are excited by it, but I'm excited by it. Any chance to see Amanda Nunes potentially defend her title is good to me, rather than it just being this thing that sits there. So 2 fights are better than no fights. Let's see if it becomes 2 fights turn into 4 fights, or 6 fights, or 8 fights, or 10. Be fun. Bantamweights, Luen Lacerda, and Cody Stamann. My question is, how will Lacerda handle this huge step up? So he's 30 years old, product of the Nova União team, 12-1 overall, UFC debut. He's won 10 straight. 9 of them are finishes. Clearly has skills, but this is a big old step up in competition, right? Say what you will, think what you want about Cody Stamann. He is a guy that has been on the roster for nearly a decade. He was a fixture in the top 15 for a good long while. He's been in there with some very good fighters. He has beaten some very good fighters. He fought Song Yadong to a draw that probably shouldn't have been a draw and should have been a win for Cody Stamann. So he is a whole ball of challenges for Luen Lacerda on Saturday. And listen, this is exactly what, this is the stuff I look for. This is chucking a dude in the deep end, and I love it because he's 30 years old. There's no need to piss around and do the real slow play, and let's take our time and put him in there with somebody that he absolutely is going to beat so we don't learn anything. If he beats Stamann, then we got to consider him a real dude at 35, because only real dudes beat Cody Stamann at 35. Even if it's this version of Stamann that isn't the same guy as he was a couple years ago, right? He's taken a little bit of a step back. Some of that athleticism and some of that power and strength and everything has waned a little bit, but he's still a guy that, you know, if I had to lay it all out, he's in the second 15, right? He's a top 30 fighter in this division. And so if you roll in on your debut and push the winning streak to 11 by beating Cody Stamann, then I got to pay attention to you going forward, and everybody else should as well. And so I love it. And I really want to see how this dude handles it, because it's one thing to wreck shop on the regional circuit in Brazil and just smash fools and finish dudes and all of that stuff. It's another thing to roll into the UFC octagon in Rio, all that pressure on you. Second fight of the night, one of the many, every fight on this card, save for 2 that are Brazil versus Brazil, are Brazil versus the world. And so you handle this one, I'm paying close attention, but maybe you falter, and I want to see. I just, as always, I want to see. Here's the test. Here's the question. Let's get the answer. Let's find out. Opening bout of the night, Simon Oliveira, Daniel Marcos. My question is, can Marcos improve on the class of 22's rough start? So he is another graduate of Dana White's Contender Series. Last week, we had 3 fighters from the show make their debuts. It wasn't great. Mateusz Rombeski got a win over Nick Fiore, but it wasn't great. Faded pretty hard after a good first round. Couldn't get the guy that everybody thought he was going to get out of there in a hurry out of there at all. But he got the win. The other 2 fellas did not. And right now their names are escaping me, and I hate that So I'm going to pull it up as we're sitting here. But like, I know I've talked about this throughout now. I know I've said it a bunch of times. Sorry, the other two are Claudio Ribeiro and Matoish Mendonche, who lost to Abdul Razak Al Hassan and Javid Basharat respectively. I know I've talked about it a lot, but the patience that I'm trying to exert with this class, like I did last year, is real, because I just don't have any good sense about really truthfully, any of the fighters coming off of this season. There's not a lot of people that I think, okay, I know who they are, what they're going to be. So some of the kids, I've got a little bit more confidence in. So we've seen Francis Marshall. We've seen a couple. So the people that debuted last year feel like they're a little bit more understandable to see who they are, or to forecast who they are. Francis Marshall looked good. Cameron Saman looked good. Teresa Bleda, who didn't get a contract, by the way, still looked okay. Just looking through the rest of season 6 here. But like everybody else that's coming, the Bonfim brothers this weekend, they are part of that group. Cedric Dumas, who is fighting in a couple of weeks. Farid Basharat, Javid's younger brother. I think he'll be fine. There's a couple guys that I think are going to be fine. A couple men and women that I think are going to be fine. We saw, obviously, Raul Rojas Jr. last year against Jay Perrin. Jafel Filo has a fight now booked for London against Muhammad Makhayev. So there are some people that I do think will have some success, but I also think that overall with the whole class, we just gotta wait and see what the matchups are, and give them time and space, because I don't know that there's a whole lot of, I don't think there's any instant successes. Like, I don't think there's a Jack Della Maddalena in this group. I don't think there's anyone that's going to come in and just bomb their way into the top 15, or even into, let's say, the top 25 right out of the gate. There's some people that have long-term prospects, that have long-term upside, but I'm not sure about the immediacy of it. And so given what we saw last week, and yep, the majority of the people that we saw in 2022 looked good. So far in 2023, not so much. So let's see if Marcos can change that on Saturday. Get things moving in the right direction for the class of 22 before the Bonfim brothers get in there. See where we're at after 2 events. That's it. UFC 283, one question for every fight, is in the books. I'm excited. I'm getting excited. Getting pumped. The thing that'll take it over the top, as it always does, is when we sit down and record the preview show. Myself, Ian, Harry. Not sure if Shawnee Podcast is going to jump in. I hope so. I like arguing about stuff with Sean. Hope you tune into that. Hope you've enjoyed this. I will be back as always throughout the rest of the week. 10 things I like on Thursday. Back with Ian for the Severe Picks and Plays on Friday. Loved the vibe of the first show. We will hit a rhythm. We will get our footing. It will be great. Until then, appreciate you. Love you. Thank you for tuning in. Take care of yourselves. Take care of one another.